Peace be upon you, friends. What would you do if you were a blacksmith up to your neck in debt, and a fortune unknown to anyone fell into your lap? Get ready to hear the story of Hamza, the blacksmith who won that great victory by saying, "I would rather starve to death than betray the trust." In one of the narrow streets of the city, there was an old blacksmith shop where the sound of hammers echoed before sunrise, its walls stained with soot. The shop owner, Hamza, was an unyielding, honest man who kept no secrets. For years he had hammered on the anvil, tempered steel, and pursued an honest living. However, fate had recently been testing him with a severe ordeal. The famine that had struck the city had brought business to a standstill. Hamza was forced to borrow money from Rustem, the city's most ruthless moneylender, to buy medicine for his sick mother, and he was up to his neck in debt. Rustem was a man consumed by greed for money. He had his eye on Hamza's small ancestral shop. He visited the shop every day. "Either pay your debt, Hamza, or give me the keys. Otherwise, I'll have you thrown into prison. Your sick mother will be miserable on the streets," he threatened. Hamza, however, bowed his head each time. "Give me time. Oh, God is great." "I will pay," was all he could manage. It was another dark, stormy, rainy autumn night. The streets had turned into a sea of mud, and no one was around. Hamza sat by his dying hearth, lost in thought. Tomorrow was the last day of the valley. Rustem would come early in the morning, and if he didn't get the money, he would go to the judge and have Hamza imprisoned. Hamza had nothing in his pocket but a few copper coins. Despair filled his lungs like smoke from a blacksmith's bellows. "Oh God, why?" Hamza prayed. Covering his soot-stained face with his hands, he said, "Don't make me dependent on a wicked man. Don't bring shame to my mother's face. Show me an exit." Just then a gunfire echoed, drowning out even the thunder outside. Then the wooden door of the shop began to be violently pounded. "Is anyone there? Help me, for God's sake," Hamza recoiled. Who could it be at this hour, in this storm? He immediately opened the door. Standing at the door was a horseman, drenched in sweat, wearing a black cloak, his face pale and wounded. The man's horse was trembling with exhaustion. The man was barely able to stay in the saddle. "Quote 7, the man said in a hoarse voice. "Quote 8. Hamza didn't hesitate. He helped the man down from the horse. He took his arm and carried him into the shop to the warm corner of the hearth. The man had a deep sword wound on his shoulder. It wouldn't stop bleeding. Hamza immediately found a clean cloth. He warmed it by the fire and pressed it against the wound. The man groaned in pain, but there was gratitude in his eyes. "Quote 9, the man said. Hamza immediately brought some fresh water. After drinking the water, the man felt a little better, but his strength was failing. With trembling hands, he reached for something from his bosom. He pulled out a heavy leather sack. The sack was tightly tied with a silk rope bearing strange seals. The man thrust the sack into Hamza's calloused hands. He fixed his gaze on Hamza's eyes. There was not a plea but a command in that look. "Quote 10, the man said, breathing in short gasps. Quote 11. Quote 12. Hamza was astonished. Quote 13. The man didn't answer. He only shook Hamza's hand. Quote 14, and the man's head fell to the side. He had fainted. Hamza was left with an unconscious stranger in his arms and a heavy sack whose contents he didn't know. A storm raged outside. Lightning flashed. The sack was so heavy it seemed as if it were filled with stones. Overwhelmed by curiosity, he ran his hand over it. From the shape of the hard objects inside, he understood. This sack was full to the brim with gold and jewels. Hamza gasped. Even a single gold coin in this sack would pay off his debt to Rustem tenfold and grant him a life fit for a king. At that moment the devil began whispering from beside the hearth. Quote 15. Hamza's hand went to the sealed rope. If he untied it, all his troubles would end. When Rustem came in the morning, he could throw the money in his face. He could take his mother to the best doctors. But then the man's last words echoed in his ears. Quote 16. Hamza quickly pulled his hand away. Quote 17, he muttered to himself. Quote 18. Hamza laid the man down on an old mattress in the back of the shop and covered him. He hid the sack in a place no one would ever think of, at the bottom of sacks of extinguished coal. It was almost morning. The rain had stopped, but the storm inside Hamza was just beginning, because in a few hours the sun would rise, and the cruel moneylender, Rustem, would be at the door. And Hamza didn't have a single penny to give Rustem. Yet, in a corner of the shop lay a fortune large enough to buy a kingdom. Hamza was caught in the middle of a great fire. On one side, honor and trust, on the other, imprisonment and misery. Hamza hadn't slept at all as the morning call to prayer echoed in the misty skies of the city. His eyes were bloodshot, his face resembling a map of soot and sweat. The mysterious guest lying in the dingy room at the back of the shop was still unconscious. His breathing was rapid, his forehead burning like fire. After placing a wet cloth on the man's forehead again, Hamza returned to the shop, to the hearth. His eyes involuntarily fell on the pile of coal sacks in the corner. At the very bottom of those sacks lay that leather bag covered only with a piece of cloth. The fortune inside was far greater than Hamza could have imagined. For a moment the devil tempted him again. Hamza, no one saw. The man is about to die anyway. Take only 5 gold coins from inside, just 5. Slap them in Rustam's face. Save your mother, save your shop, then you can put them back. Who would know? Hamza placed his hand on the anvil and clenched his fist. Quote, 19, he said to himself. Quote, 20. Just then he was startled by a loud kick against the shop door. Open the door, you piece of blacksmith. Don't hide in your hole like a mouse. It was Rustam. He was accompanied by 2 burly men with sticks. Hamza took a deep breath. Saying, "Oh God," he pulled the bolt on the door. As soon as the door opened, Rustam burst in. With his expensive robe, the rings on his fingers, and that arrogant grin on his face, he seemed to mock the squalor inside the shop. Holding his nose, he looked around. It smells like something foul in here, said Rustam. Then he advanced towards Hamza. Time's up, Hamza. The sun rose. Where's my money? Hamza held his head high, but his voice was low. Ah, you know my situation. Business is slow. Animasta, give me a little more time. I swear I'll pay you. I promise I'll pay you. I'll bring you whatever I get. Rustam music laughed. That laughter echoed in Hamza's heart like shards of glass. Quote, 24. These words shattered Hamza's patience. He stepped forward. With his enormous size, he stood over Rustam. Rustam recoiled in fear for a moment. Hamza's biceps were tensed, his veins bulging. If he had punched Rustam, he would have knocked him to the ground, but he didn't. Violence was the weapon of the unjust, not the just. He spoke through clenched teeth. Don't insult my mother, Rustam. Take my life, but don't touch my honor or my family. Rustam, emboldened by the support of his bodyguards, felt a surge of courage again. Look at him, acting tough. Since you have no money, let's see what you have in the shop that's worth anything. Rustam signaled to his men. Search and ransack everything, the iron, the anvil, the tools, whatever you find. Hamza's blood ran cold. The men began ransacking the shop. They scattered the iron from the shelves and rummaged through the cupboards. Hamza tried to intervene, but one of Rustam's bodyguards pressed his stick against Hamza's chest. Quote, 28. Rustam started walking toward the corner of the shop where the coal sacks were. Quote, 29, quote 30, he said, grinning. Hamza's heart almost stopped. Rustam was heading toward the sack where the saddlebag was. If he found that sack, everything would be over. Not only would the entrusted item be lost, but the wounded man's secret would also be revealed. Hamza closed his eyes and silently pleaded, quote, 31. Rustam kicked the top sack of coal with his foot. The sack fell over. A cloud of black dust spread around. Rustam coughed and waved his hand. He was about to bend down to the sack below where the saddlebag was hidden, when a groaning sound came from the back room of the shop. Rustam froze. What was that? Was someone inside? An idea came to Hamza's mind at that moment. He immediately lunged forward. Music. A plague-ridden traveler took refuge here last night. Don't touch him, you'll catch a disease. Upon hearing the word plague, Rustam and his men turned pale. At that time, the plague meant death. Rustam quickly moved away from the coal sack. He retreated toward the door. May God curse you, Hamza. Have you turned your shop into a breeding ground for disease, he shouted, covering his mouth and nose. We're leaving immediately, but don't think you're safe. I'm going straight to the judge now. If you don't bring that money by evening, I'll come with the gendarmes and have you and that plague-ridden man thrown into prison. This shop will be mine. Rustam and his men fled without looking back, terrified of the plague. When the door closed, Hamza knelt down. His legs were trembling. The treasure was almost revealed, he said. Thank God. He quickly ran to the back room. The wounded man had opened his eyes and was staring at the ceiling. Hamza immediately went to his side. My brave man, they heard your voice, but I said you had the plague. They got scared and ran away. It's a good thing, isn't that right? The man took Hamza's hand. He had regained some of his strength. There was deep gratitude and at the same time great concern in his eyes. Quote, 40, he whispered. Quote, 41. Hamza smiled bitterly. Quote, 42. The wounded man struggled to stand up. Quote, 43, he said. Quote, 44. Quote, 45, Hamza said. Quote, 46. The man looked deep into Hamza's eyes, into the depths of his soul. In that look, he was weighing Hamza's honesty. Then he said something surprising. Quote, 47. Hamza was surprised. Quote, 48. Quote, 49, the man said. His voice was weak but authoritative. Quote, 50. Hamza recoiled. Quote, 51. Quote, 52. The man smiled at Hamza's answer. It wasn't a bitter smile, but the smile of a victorious commander. He put his head back on the pillow. Quote, 5. 3. Hamza didn't understand what was happening. Was the man delirious, or was he testing him? You rest, Hamza said. I will find a solution. Hamza left the shop to perform ablution. But he didn't know that things had gotten complicated in the city. Rustem had done as he said and gone to the judge. Moreover, not only for the debt, but he had reported that Hamza the blacksmith was hiding a plague-ridden person in his shop, and that he would bring disease to the city. As the call to prayer was being recited, the street where his shop was located was surrounded by gendarmes and soldiers. When Hamza returned from prayer, he saw that his shop was surrounded. The chief gendarme of the judge was standing at the front. Quote 56 shouted the guard. Quote 57, Hamza thought of the wounded man and the hidden bag inside the shop. If they came in, everything would be over. He had no choice but to surrender. He raised his hands. Quote 58, he said. Quote 59. The moment the guards grabbed Hamza's arms, Rustem emerged from the crowd, grinning. See, Hamza, I told you. Now the shop is mine. Everything inside is mine, too. As Hamza was dragged away, a defenseless wounded man and a fortune worth millions were left at the mercy of the cruel Rustem, or so Hamza thought. Because that wounded man wasn't just an ordinary messenger and the game was just beginning, Hamza was thrown into a damp, dark dungeon cell, the weight of the rusty chains on his arms heavy. When the door slammed shut, the heavy smell of musty smoke filled his lungs. A beam of light from outside filtered through the iron bars. It was hitting the ground in a thin line. Hamza knelt down on the straw spread on the ground. Was he afraid? No. Was he sad? He was only worried about his mother and the wounded treasure he had left in the shop. He opened his hands and whispered in the darkness, quote, 61 . Meanwhile, a completely different atmosphere prevailed in the shop. As soon as Hamza was taken away, he said to his men, who were afraid to enter the shop where he was said to be bound, quote, 62, quote, 63. It's over, Hamza, he said to himself. This will be my warehouse now. Then he remembered the corner that Hamza had constantly tried to protect before the guards arrived. The coal sacks. Why would that wretched blacksmith protect those filthy coals? Rustem thought. There must be something there. He quickly went to the sacks. Ignoring the black dust, he knocked the sacks over, and there it was, a heavy leather sack shining among the black coal dust. Rustem's breath caught in his throat. When he picked up the sack, he almost dropped it because of its weight. What is this? He muttered. With trembling hands, he pulled and broke the sealed silk cord on it. He opened the mouth of the sack, and a yellow gleam shone on his face in the dimness of the shop. The gold, even the rare, pure gold coins bearing the imperial seal, rubies, and emeralds found even in the state treasury made Rustem burst into laughter. His voice echoed off the shop walls. It was as if wretched Hamza, the miserable Hamza, was sitting on a fortune amidst the coal, unaware of it. With this money I could buy not just this shop, but the whole city. Let Hamza rot in prison. This treasure now belongs to Rustem. Rustem slung the sack over his shoulder. He even forgot to check on the plague-ridden man in the back room. His only concern was to grab this loot and escape. He headed for the door. Just as he was about to step outside, the sound of hooves began to echo from the street. But this time the sound of hooves was not ordinary. The earth and sky trembled. When Rustem opened the door and stepped outside, he froze. The street, from the beginning a troop of soldiers, their horses rearing up, wearing red robes and carrying long spears, was approaching. At the forefront, on the horse at the front, was a majestic commander with a turban adorned with a plume and a large eagle ring on his finger. This approaching commander was none other than the Bostan Chibashi, the head of the palace guards. Rustem's men, terrified, dropped their sticks and fell to the ground. Rustem, with the heavy saddlebag on his shoulder, was at a loss for what to do. He couldn't escape. He couldn't hide. The Bostan Chibashi stopped his horse right in front of Rustem's nose. The horse's breath struck Rustem's face. The commander looked not at Rustem, but at the saddlebag in his hand. His eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" the commander roared. "And what is that saddlebag, bearing the seal of the Sublime Porte, doing in your possession?" Rustem began to tremble with fear. His tongue stumbled. "Well, sir, I'm a creditor of this shop. That saddlebag is his, Pasha. Don't touch it." Rustem and the commander returned to the shop. Standing in the doorway was the wounded man Hamza had called a plague victim. His face was pale. He was barely able to stand, leaning against the wall, but there was an air of nobility in his posture. When the chief gardener saw the wounded man, he instantly dismounted from his horse. The imposing commander came to the wounded man, knelt down, and kissed his hem. "My prince," said the commander, "spare your life. We are late. Did you suffer any harm?" Rustem couldn't believe what he heard. A prince? Was that wounded, wretched man the Sultan's son? His vision blurred, his legs gave way. The saddlebag in his hand fell to the ground with a crash. The gold scattered into the muddy street. The wounded prince looked not at Rustem, but at the commander. "Get up, my tutor," he said. I am fine, but I witnessed a great injustice. This man did not give me this bag. This man is a thief. The real custodian is that brave blacksmith who saved me from death and didn't even touch this bag. Where is he?" Quote 76. "Sir, Quote 77 speak, where's the blacksmith Hamza? Quote 78. In the dungeon, sir, I complained. They threw him in the dungeon. Immediately. Go to the dungeon immediately. That blacksmith will be brought out of there not as a criminal, but as a hero. And this wretched usurer, quote 81, throw this man to where he belongs, in the darkest corner of that dungeon. Let him suffer the punishment for attempting to steal state property and slandering an innocent man. Quote 82, don't do it, don't do it. Quote 83, my lord, you return to the palace. Let the doctors examine him. Quote 84, no, I will pay my debt first. I will not enter the palace until that blacksmith is released from prison. Drive the horses to the prison. Quote 85, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. Allah is sufficient for us. What a fine representative he is. Have you come, tyrant? Pardon? Come in, Hamza Effendi. We have come to take you. A very important guest awaits you outside. If honor is sold, a man dies. Master Hamza, the chief blacksmith of the palace and the army, has passed away. We seek not just those who forge iron well, but those with hearts as strong as steel. With this decree, I appoint you as the chief blacksmith of the imperial palace. From now on, the swords and shields of our army will be in your hands, and the keys to our treasury will be entrusted to your honor. May God not bring ruin upon our state. Your command is my command. My prince, may God not let me be ashamed. Do not take the curse of the oppressed. It will come back to you slowly but surely. Sustenance comes from God. I owe nothing to man. Master, if you had opened that sack that night, you would still have repaid your debt. Son, if I had opened that bag, I would have paid my debt but lost myself. Debts can be paid, money can be earned, but lost trust is like a broken mirror. It can never be the same again. I didn't open that bag that night, but my Lord opened the doors of mercy for me. Master Hamza lived with honor and dignity until the end of his life. When he passed away, even the Sultan attended his funeral. On his tombstone, by order of the prince, the following words were inscribed: Here lies Hamza, the blacksmith who extinguished not the fire in his hands, but the ego within him. Dear friends, the lesson we should learn from our story is that when a person is in distress, the devil shows him 1,000 different doors. No one sees. He says, it's just once, nothing will happen. But remember that the real test is when you are alone with your conscience in a place where no one sees you. Protect what has been entrusted to you, just as Hamza did, so that God may protect you. Those who do not stray from righteousness will ultimately win. Dear friends, we have come to the end of this instructive journey of Hamza the blacksmith. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like the video to support our efforts and share it with your loved ones to spread good. Subscribing to our channel to become part of this spiritual family would make us very happy. So, if you were in Hamza's place, would you open the bag in that difficult situation? I await your honest answers in the comments. Until we meet again in a new story, may righteousness be your companion. May God protect you.